You got to keep on moving. Yeah, so what's up, folks? Let's drop right back in. Let's look at some OC poetry, see what's been going on. It's been a long time since I've done some trolling. Been a long time. Been a long time. Been a lonely, lonely, lonely time. Let's dig into it. And I need your help. You know how this goes. The more people who subscribe to the channel, the closer I get to notching that 300 subscribers. If I notch 300 subscribers, YouTube will let me do other types of posts. They'll let me do text posts and image posts where I can keep you up to date on happenings. We can communicate more easily. We can have little polls and all types of other stuff can be unlocked. I can't do that right now until you subscribe up. So much appreciated. Let's talk about some poetry, huh? This was took me a little while to get around to this Thalakos, and I appreciate your patience. But here we are, my brother, or sister, or friend. Cold August nights. Even though it is slightly cold for a late August night, I do not wish to go back inside. I want us to stay out here forever, or at least for one moment more. Okay. So, this is not an overwhelmingly specific central imagery, but it does enough to kind of locate us and put us in frame. We know what's going on. The reader isn't going to be confused. They're not going to be wondering, like, what the heck is going on. It's slightly cold, so, the fall is coming. But, you want to stay out and still make the most of summer. Okay, we get all that. And even though all I can make out is your messy golden hair, you have never been more beautiful, for I can feel your soul right next to mine. So usually at this point, I kind of pull the plug on a poem, folks, because we're doing things that, in contemporary free verse idiom would really not work super, super well. Saying words like beautiful, just like putting that right in a poem. Ending a line with it, especially, I feel like is difficult. I guess it does get a little bit of assonance or consonance with soul, so a kind of a near rhyme, full soul there. And then putting soul in a poem. I often yell and scream and go nuts on you guys when you guys put things like soul and spirit and karma and all that other stuff. You guys chuck the kitchen sink in a poem, oblivion, all these types of words that are really, really dangerous to put in a poem. People are chucking in, and it doesn't always work. You can feel your soul right next to mine. So why am I giving Thanos here a free pass? You're not Thanos. You guys get the idea. Why does Thanos get the free pass here? There's a little bit of rhetoric here, and even though you guys read that, I don't know if you need the and, even though, but okay, and even though, so it's really kind of rhetorically using extra syllable there to kind of push this rhetorical feature. This, despite all that type of thing. And even though all I can make out is your messy golden hair. And the messiness here, I think, is very, very successful. So oftentimes, the messiness being something beautiful, or cueing this kind of ecstasy of the speaker beholding the beloved. The messiness of this seems to make the whole predicament much more intense for them, and I think that's true to kind of this lyric moment that the tiny little flaw ends up actually unpacking and expanding and creating this opportunity for a deeper level of appreciation. So it's kind of like a chipped piece of pottery is sometimes more becoming than one that does not have that chip. Um, so I think this strategy that the poem uses is very, very simple but relatively effective. I wish I could stay longer, but I always knew I would be leaving too soon, even though I was never there. So I think this ending, even though I was never there, this whole stanza to me is not as successful. Um, of course, we wish to stay longer. We want to stay in the lyric instant, this moment of kind of being caught in a bug, being caught in amber. Everybody wants to stay in that moment forever, but it's the tragedy of the poet that they can't. So this reflection here that they're unable to linger here forever, you know that fall is coming, isn't fully won for me. There's not enough of a pivot to reflection. The I was never there is also, in my opinion, unjustified. So it was all a dream. So I think it's disposing or throwing away some of these moments that are really relatively strong in this piece. I think this line here is really kind of winning. Winifred's, I would say. Go to your local Winifred's shopping and pick up this line because this is doing it for me. I think sometimes approaching a topic simply straight on can be relatively effective. These short lines without a lot of stoppage, not a lot of punctuation or caesura, meaning pausing in the line, gives the reader a certain amount of momentum. This, I think, is probably not going to work super well, but I don't know. Not all. So people often ride me pretty hard. They're like, well, not all poetry has to and do this and do that, and sometimes poems are just a poem, and sometimes a pipe is just a pipe, and a cigar is just a cigar, and a hat is. I know, okay, but we're trying to look at literature and look at poetry as this opportunity to improve your own writing. So if we just let stuff lie flat on the page, we're not going to get there. But I would say, as a kind of an amateur piece, this is strong and is the type of thing that shows strong instincts. If you have strong instincts as a poet, and you have a good idea for what will make a successful topic, it's potentially going to take you much further. That's very nice. Okay. Let's look at another For My Mother. For My Mother, we've pinged back and forth. So what's up? Let's see what's going on. I only knew uncaptured. I only knew that sunset meant playtime was over. Okay, very effectively situating the reader. Again, there's a little bit more of that rhetoric. I only knew. So there's some new knowledge that's already been queued up. There's additional knowledge that this poem is threatening to offer us because of that only, right? So we know from the beginning. I never knew. So I would say this is too soon to say never. After only, this is too soon, the poem, to say never. I never knew the day of the week. So this never, I think, is too soon. I never, and then there's another never here. So I think we're kind of pounding in the nails to the coffin a little bit early on this. Wait to do that. I never knew how to unknot strings without guidance. I don't know why we need guidance. Or face the dark without holding a hand. Okay, a little cliche, right? I never knew what black clothes expressed. Okay. Well, the coffin's coming, ladies and gentlemen. The coffin's coming. Habeas corpus, show us the body, right? I had never had memories of headstones. Okay, so let's get to it. Show us. I never knew what the whispers behind closed doors meant. Again, cliche. Which whispers? By whom? Situate us. Give us some specifics. Or the space that came with my mother's sudden silence. Again, a little cliche. The sudden here, the sudden This adjective sudden is not ideal. If you have to rely on an adjective in your poem, I think it's not ideal. I never watched my father limp with a cane to bed. To a bed he would shrink in as his body gave out slowly, like he was supposed to. Bruised lines deep along his face. Okay, so this here, this section here, folks, listeners. Hey, I'm talking to you. Bing, ding, 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 ding. Pay attention now. Okay? Pay attention. Do I have your attention? This is it. This is what I'm talking about. This is what poetry is supposed to do. Okay? This poem kind of stumbles around drunkenly to get to this place, but once it gets there, really does execute extremely effectively. Let's look at why. So again, this refrain, this never refrain, I'm not a big fan of this refrain tactic in this poem. I think this never should come. You should use never once and use it here at the beginning of this line. I never watched my father limp with a cane to a bed he would shrink in. It's a little bit awkward having this in at the end. However, because we're ending with this preposition, there's a little bit of an extra diminution that the father shrinks down into one, two character, two letter, single syllable word. So this shrinking is quite dramatic. To a bed he would shrink in as his body gave out slowly. I don't know why you put the slowly there, as his body slowly gave out. I don't know. Again, it's a little bit awkward, but we're talking about an awkward situation. I think that's a really difficult thing to do as a poet, to talk about something awkwardly that is awkward. So be very careful with that. But this is promising. As his body gave out slowly, like he was supposed to. There's a lot of implied in this supposed to. There's a huge, huge subtext here that's really interesting and exciting to the reader. It really locks the reader in, makes them want to reread what went above it. Bruised, lines deep along his face. So this is excellently well observed. So we have this caesura or pause here with the em dash, and then we get to the bruised, and then another comma, another grammatical stop after the bruised, really emphasizing that, and then the lines deep along his face. This adjective deep here is a success. It's not. This is not weak adjectival matter because it's not dictating to the reader how to see or feel. It's just literally showing that the lines are deep, and that's it. There's the commentary is implicit, is for the reader to come to. So starting here, we have a very, very promising, sustained level of energy and sonic concentration. That's what we want to get to. I'm not sure about the sequence of cliche that we use, the sunset, the playtime, the unknot strings, the black clothing, the headstones, the whispers behind closed doors. Maybe we could choose one or two of these and expand on them and use some novel language to try to make them exciting and fresh and interesting. So I think this unknotting strings echoes these lines we have here. So the strings and lines have a metaphorical accordance. So if we could set that up well and focus on this metaphor of the strings, and why would you? I only knew that sunset meant playtime was over. Coming in, my shoes in a knot. I needed your help to unwind them. Right? that would make all of the action specific and really bring the you, the mother, in for my mother. Will bring it in and make it interrelated. We want poetry to be about relationships. Okay, and then I would skip some of these nevers. I'm not sure where you go in the middle of the poem or what you do or how you handle that. You got to figure that out on your own. But then you'll get to this place in the poem. I never, then you use the never the first time. I never watched my father. That would be good. Maybe return to the you. If you could get that you in there, it's a great cheat, guys. It's a cheat code to win. Get a you in your poem, and you will likely be successful. All right. Sella and I have been bouncing some stuff back and forth, and Sella, man, gosh, never have I gone harder after someone than perhaps have gone after Sella. And at times I've felt, did I push someone on this channel too hard, or kind of persecute them on and their writing? And darned if I didn't go after Sella for writing this boot camp poem a while ago that I felt was a didn't do any of the things I'd like poetry to do. I think I called that episode Back to Basic, and we talked about Sella's poem. And then, Sella and I talked. Sella might have shown me some other efforts since then. I don't really super remember, but Sella and I have been in communication, and this is a highly coachable person, clearly, who takes this type of input, or is potentially just a person of inner strength, I suppose. Not everybody is going to respond to criticism in that way, but let's see what Sella does with that as they revisit basic training. I first saw the goldfinch. Look out from the muzzle of a gun. I'm not sure how the goldfinch is looking out from the muzzle of a gun. Against the wall, as the drill sergeant said, always remember to aim for the 25-meter target. See the specifics? That's good. Never look farther than the demands of the hour. So then that gets a little bit into a kind of a metaphor there, or speculation why the drill sergeant would literally be talking about the demands of the hour at the shooting range. But it's a metaphor for being, on task. And now we also get this idea that the narrator is unreliable. They're looking at the goldfinch and they're not paying attention to the drill sergeant, and the words and the ideas of the drill sergeant are kind of all becoming this kind of soup or concoction or remix in their head. They're not literally listening that carefully. Instead, they're paying attention to the bird. As he spoke, it danced from rifle to pillow. So I imagine they're lying on these pillows at the firing range. The poem does not show us the soldiers lying prone, which I think would be helpful if it did. But I can fill in the blank there, I think. From pillow to sign. This sign is interesting. When we put a sign in a poem, that's always very, very significant, as you can imagine. I'm not sure what sign this is. Some type of caution sign or live fire sign, or who knows, or wear your fucking earplugs, idiots. I don't know. But interesting to deploy this type of word, because now we're talking about signaling. And of course, birds are a very, very ancient way to signal via augury or fortune telling and stuff like that, or just people naturally, when they see a bird, they think it signifies something. Until he said that fucking bird. So oftentimes when we just deploy random curse words in a poem, it doesn't super work. It kind of falls flat. But this is pretty successful. This is working. Somebody get me a rifle. It's funny, right? It's very effective. We laughed as it waited on the bar above the door. So I can't see what that bar is exactly. I'm not really sure what that is, but I suppose there's some type of crossbar or something at this shooting range. The door only opened for a moment after class. Okay, so the door is open and shut. We left without knowing if it followed us outside. So the poem is trying to, Sella here is trying to find a way to exit, to dismount, okay, after the largely successful performance with a few minor, missing cues for the reader's eye, which I think are very, very minor here. Sella's now looking to dismount, right? The door only opened. So this door with the crossbars is again a little bit awkward. A doorway or any escape, something like that, perhaps, was only momentary. I don't know. That's kind of cheesy, though. I'm not sure how to go. So you could go with something else. I mean, do we need to? Is the central question of this poem whether the bird escapes, whether the goldfinch achieves freedom? I think there's this also. Before we pivot to whether the goldfinch escapes, there's the question of whether the drill sergeant is basically waiting for everybody to leave so he can shoot the bird. We all left after we all filed out. Nobody dared to linger and listen for the shot. How about that? Okay, so that's me over dictating, telling other people how to write their poems. I think that here's the good news, ladies and gentlemen. When you do all the things this channel talks about, situating the reader, offering bold, immediate, specific imagery, not dictating and telling the reader what to see or feel, but giving them the opportunity to explore and experience the scene firsthand. Then you can introduce these metaphors and associations. These powerful, powerful tools of poetry suddenly become unlocked and become successful. And the humor then is working. Everything in this poem is firing well. We could look at these line endings, always something I'm interested in. These short, taut, well-constructed lines. Goldfinch, muzzle. See how this gun sound and picks up on the muzzle, which is just a foot of meter before. This wall aligns with the muzzle. Even this said, which is kind of a dull verb, picks up on the drill sergeant said, and gives this kind of insistency to those initials, those consonants. Very effective. Always, a sound here. Always remember to aim. So again, the assonance there helps this line as well. Again and again and again, we see in this poem the successful deployment of subtle aural techniques to keep the momentum of the poem going. The poem doesn't abuse caesura. There's not a lot of mess in here to stop the progress of the reader's eye. The momentum and excitement builds until we get to this first full stop here, with the demands of the hour, with the suggestion of something bigger and more complicated. Sella, I'm impressed. Impressive work. Fine work, if I do say so myself. You are vindicated. Well, as it just so happens, Sella is absolutely storming the fucking castle. Now, I can't read the title of this poem for y'all because that wouldn't be appropriate. But I can read the body of the poem, and I would very much enjoy doing so for you. We drove down to San Francisco, following the mountain's spine to where it ended in black sand. Afterwards, we went downtown and walked to a Chinatown shop, familiar colors of a foreign home. Crossing the Golden Gate Bridge, I watched the towers above us and heard my mother scream. I thought she saw a dead body. Someone spat on our windshield. The day after, my sister told me he had turned and looked at her through the half-open window. There are some minor issues here. The logistics of someone spitting while they're crossing the Golden Gate is definitely possible, but tricky. Why it needs to wait for the day after for the sister to be part of this and express herself, I would perhaps like to have all the characters on the table from the opening. My sister, my mother, and I, for example, or all my sister and my parents and I. I don't know. That, I guess, makes it worse, so maybe don't do that. This is a we poem, but it is talking about a we problem. So it's appropriate to use we in this particular instance. And it's not appropriate to use it in the many instances we talked about in a previous episode. This we here is talking about issues in our culture around racism and identity and how we treat other human beings or fail to recognize them as human beings. I think this is extremely well done, this mountain spine to where it ended in black sand. I don't know the geography of this region very well, but I do know the Chinese people came to San Francisco a long time ago as workers, as essentially a step or two up over slaves, to be coolies, to work on railroads and work on mines and do work in restaurants and work as sex workers and do work laundry, do work that other people didn't want to do. There's this history, the Chinese Exclusion Act, where there was this kind of panic that white people started to fear that Chinese were going to overrun us. The Chinese Exclusion Act prevented further Chinese from immigrating for a long period of time. And it's this kind of very ugly, racist part of American history, which I feel like this poem is indirectly touching on with this down the mountains, following the mountain's spine to where it ended in black sand. The black sand seems to suggest this kind of used upness, that all the gold has been extracted. I think there's an opportunity and with San Francisco I studied some Chinese and so have talked about this. So I have a college Chinese. The Chinese for San Francisco is Jiujinsan, which is Old Gold Mountain. I think that to me, it very much echoes around that this depletion of the gold seems to be baked into this opening. And there might be a way to integrate that. Now, I think this poem is working pretty well as it is. I think that the key moment here, I thought she saw a dead body is this moment of the poem of this eureka moment, this moment of inverse discovery, of kind of finally seeing completely something, which is this experience of being dehumanized is a kind of experience of death, which the lyric poem is explicitly designed to explore this kind of moment, the moment of death, or just before death, or the death is essentially forever. It's, if you have a single moment in your life that's exquisite in a good or a bad way, but extremely heightened, it always points to death. It always points to, and the rest is darkness. And so timing this at this point in this 14-line poems comes as a kind of a volta or pivot. I feel like, again, the instincts here are very, very strong from Sella. The instinct to prosecute this topic with a 14-line sonnet-like device, and to try to implement this volta and to speak of death right at the middle in a very surprising way, I think is brilliant. Very well done. This narration that occurs at the end, I think could probably be rejiggered a little tiny bit, and must for this poem to be maximally effective, needs to echo back to this imagery, to the spine, to the sand, to the depleted gold, to the mountains, to something, and not in any direct way. You don't need to return to specifically, like the camera doesn't need to rotate there and put the reader's eye back there, but the imagery should. The imagery should help us conjure this depletion, that someone who would spit is themselves depleted, and they are essentially coughing up this kind of depletedness out of themselves. To me, that's kind of latent in this poem, but that could be attenuated, and this would then go from being a poem that's a very successful shot that hits the mark by Soldier Sella here, to bullseye right between the eyes, kill. But again, here we have right as we watch, which is just so exciting, a poet kind of really coming into their own power, and really developing right in front of us these chops to be able to take on these ambitious topics that weaker poets want to write about but cannot. Thank you so much for joining me. And please do, if I've helped you in some way, help me help you. I need you to subscribe and engage with me. Comment on the videos, like it or dislike it. Engagement helps the algo and helps me reach more people. If we reach more people, we can build a bigger boat. We can do workshops together. We can endeavor to do all types of exciting stuff with a bigger boat. Thank you so much, and we'll be back very soon, I'm sure. Oh, let's